So to start this off really quickly, I did record a lot of commentary, but OBS basically failed to split the audio tracks correctly. It gave me 3 tracks, but they all played all of the sound and nothing separated correctly. Gosh knows why, and quite honestly, I couldn't record all of my commentary if I tried since it's been blended into the game audio by now. Despite this, I'm changing my approach to the series to be more curated and highly edited, scripting and recording the events as they transpire with a few jokes in between. Without further ado, I say we just jump right into this little mess of mine. The first thing I wanted to talk about is something I noticed when messing around with the settings, and it's that if you change the voiceover language, you forcibly change the entire language of the game, including written text. The game doesn't tell you it'll do that, plus there's no way to listen to the Chinese or Japanese VAs without setting the entire game's UI into that language. For many other games, this isn't too big of a deal, but this game is essentially satisfactory for gacha addicts, so it actually is kind of a big deal here. Keep in mind that if I do present any in-game audio, as all the VAs in this video are just going to be speaking English from here on out. Heading into the game, you're faced with the same choice every gacha puts forth, the decision to choose your gender. Naturally, I'm absolutely fantastic at making up my mind and immediately make the right choice for me personally.
Alright, do we want to be cute girl or cute boy? This is just like real life, I can't choose. Okay, alright, give me a minute. I will spend like 5 minutes doing this.
Right on after, we find ourselves stepping out of an elevator right onto what appears to be a moon orbited by seems to be the Traveler from Destiny. Anyway, at this point I was more distracted by our protagonist's footprints in the snow than I was by anything else. Which is saying something given the ghost kitty literally sitting 6 feet away from me. Not that I'd say anything wearing this giant sci-fi doodad over my eyes. We ask about the giant glowing thing in the sky, to which the pretty cat lady tells us that it's a power that belongs to us and we need to reclaim it. Wait, reclaimer? A traveler? Are we sure that Bungie isn't just writing this game? Anyway. With that in mind, we begin to head forward into this weird snowy wonderland while people exposit things that don't make any sense to me at all right now. It's around here that we get to experience one of the main ways to travel around the world, the zip line. Spoiler alert, I pretty much forgot about these from here on out, and maybe only used them 1 or 2, maybe 3 times over the world because I took too long to realize building them was a low-level perk I could have researched at any time. Not to worry though, here's something I did pay attention to. The combat. This game successfully blends a bunch of other gacha games' combat systems together in a way that feels wholly unique. Basic attacks are easy and only require holding a button. The further we get in and the more operators we have to work with, the more that this is going to get way too complicated to explain all at once, so we'll just stick with the basics we learned for now. Which is, if I remember, hit thing, dodge thing, stagger thing, and kill thing. After another quick trip on the zipline, we fight off another couple enemies, learning a bit more about basic skills, and run off into the giant out-of-place tower where we find Casper the friendly cat once again. She gives us a pep talk saying we've never been the type to give up and vanishes once more as we run off into the next part of this fragmented journey, now populated by a giant red crystal thingy spawning mobs to attack us. But it's okay, because we basically have inbuilt cheats and spawn in these giant over-the-top artillery cannons which pitted against these small critters just feels absolutely cruel to use. Once we're through decimating the local wildlife on this strange in-between dimension, we set off again to try and cross a large chasm where a giant rock man stands frozen in time, looking down at us as if it knows something. Almost confirming this superstition, the rock-solid giant somehow drops his inanimate hand down to give us a bridge, which makes me wonder just how much he is statue and how much he is giant. We get no explanations as we run across to the graveyard he seems to be protecting, which now haunts us with these ghastly voices that, honestly, were probably responsible for being here in the first place by the sound of things. I'm not sure, but the vibes I got from here must have been spreading to me because I ended up going on a monologue about graveyards for about 3 minutes before going to the next section. Maybe one day I'll let you hear me talk about graveyards and dead bodies and the like for an extended period of time, but today is not that day, for we are busy. But enough of that, we have our resident kitty ghost giving us sass while we slowly walk our way to this apparently eminently urgent goal of reclaiming the light from the Traveler. I mean our powers from this entity. The Endman seems to know more about themselves than we do, as they simply summon a giant pillar to come and take out the orb and reclaim its power for ourselves, but As always in this franchise, we're foiled by a pretty girl who hates the idea of free healthcare. She blows up their stuff and summons in a huge boss fight because we have to have a huge big boss fight or it's not really an intro sequence to an RPG now, is it? The boss concept is really cool though. He's got so many swords in him that it reminds me of Dante from Devil May Cry, or me from my early 20s. But we're not alone in this fight. We have the Flying Duchess and her entourage of holographic anime women here to help. Being a tutorial boss, he's not much to write home about in terms of gameplay, but it does give us a nice intro into the party-based combat system. And also this cool scene where he does the Dante DMC thing and rips his sword out of his chest to use it against us. We take off both his arms with relative ease and beat down what I can only describe as if the Archangel Gabriel took up stonemasonry, which Goth Mommy takes offense to and heals him enough to go into an enrage phase. I'm not 100% sure I cleared it, but the cutscene kicking in shows that it doesn't really matter as Cat Ghost heads in to protect us anyway. We wake up in Kane's Void from the amazing digital circus where there's just a single pylon of some kind standing in the middle of it with a small stone on the floor nearby. We toss it into the machine that begins to count up in irregular intervals, which, even as I'm writing this, I still don't understand what those intervals are or why it's counting. We then wake up in space being told to remember something, but honestly, I'm of the mind that remembering can wait until I'm not floating in the cold vacuum of space. After remembering our name at least, and some other vague details of our official title, we end up falling through a giant space labia, literally being born into what is now a less ghostly Catgirl's arms. Also, Calcit is here for the fans of the old game, but don't get too attached, you won't be seeing her again for at least 40 more hours. We pass out and awaken to find ourselves laying in a hospital bed as the cutest Neko I've ever seen is sitting there peeling us apples. I think I've had dreams of this moment, but also, despite that, I'm going to complain a little because I actually like the skin on my apples. Like, lady, I appreciate the gesture, but you've just ruined that for me. She takes our hand, assuring us we're safe and that everything's okay. And every person with mommy issues seeing this right now is probably fighting the urge to bawl like a little baby, but steel yourselves, dang it. We'll get through this. She gives us a bit of a rundown that we're on a large ship that belongs to us, and that her name is Perlica. Once we're feeling a bit better, she's quick to give us a little tour around the ship, giving us this wonderful scene which I don't feel like I need to explain. After we learn a bit more about the Dijon, we're taken to the bridge where we can see the moon of Talos II, which is orbiting the even much bigger Talos I, which we don't get to see with the limited amount of time we have here now. We get even more exposition about the world and its people and some history leading up here, but the TLDR of it all is that things haven't been easy here on Talos, as well as the fact that we can summon things and people thanks to this handy-dandy arm crystal. Someone radios in, interrupting our exposition, requesting help for an emergency situation, which we aptly respond to as the good Samaritans we are, which leads us finally to Valley 4. Also, this motorcycle is really cool. Why don't I get one? At least Warframe gave me one after teasing me with it. We finally arrive close to our destination, where we're attacked by more of these little rock guys, but they're no match for Enman and Perlica. She seems exceptionally worried given our critical condition, but being the protagonist, we're totally fine. We learn a little bit more about the Angoloi, which despite its pronunciation has no N in the name of it all, which made reading it for the script harder than it had to be. Further into the facility, we find some of the crew that radioed for help, fending for their lives against the Rocky Horror Show, which leads us to our first mini-boss fight. The fight is underwhelmingly short, making me wonder how these people survived as long as they did, but at least they seem grateful. We find the leader of this band of unionists showing us that in this universe, socialism is the predominant governing force, and she tasks us to help the rest of the class collective hiding out throughout parts of the facility while we go on our way to try and shut down the anchor that's spawning all of the angry pebbles. Honestly, with how close the crew is to the evac site, I'm surprised they needed our help at all, but I'm glad we were able to save Mr. Pervert Glasses here. I'm not saying that he is a pervert, but you know those spiral glasses. Just look at him. He definitely reads Yuri and cries at night over its pure beauty, and you just can't tell me otherwise. He gives us some of his healing items at least, and then sends us on our way to close off the anchor, which admittedly is a much longer journey than the one that we took to get here. We break it and save old old man Al in the process, but are jumped by a big guy who's either really into BDSM or has the same idea of cool as Taserface from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. A few more tutorials and one mini-boss later, we defeat him, with the best girl jumping in to save the day with a killing blow. Giving her a little praise for the work she did, and her tail begins to wag cutely, solidifying my undying love for Chen-Chen, which will live on long after I depart from this mortal coil. She's cute enough that I almost forget about the old man, currently incapacitated on the ground, but he springs to life just fine, so all is well, I guess. He seems to greet us like an old friend, but we have to inform him that I am, in fact, amnesia-pilled, which he takes very poorly at first, but we quickly move on as he asks us to retrieve an important document for our prototype robot that he was seemingly willing to risk his life and others for. Naturally, we agree, and it's off with us to go figure things out from here. We end up reconvening with the leader of the USSR, who seems worried about the Borderlands bandits creeping in on their land. She asks us to go take care of them, as well as some ominous glowing smoke in the distance, and we being the main characters are like, obviously, screw it, we ball. So, with our plans to deal with the bondage psychos, stop the smoke at the automation core, and recover Owlboy's prototype plans, we set on out of the hub into the actual open world part of Valley 4, in which I immediately get distracted by harming all of the local wildlife and breaking every rock within a 20-mile radius of me. I have hella ADHD, so games like this are like crack. By that I mean unproductive, distracting, and leaving me with an addiction that would be best sorted by a rehab, that if I attended I'd relapse back into exploring this world just to escape the boredom. Still, despite my manic hopping around the place, we do save some workers from the LBs along the way and somehow acquire a free polar bear. After 40 minutes of picking up random flowers, looting chests, and doing anything but the objective, we end up slaying the main bandit camp bothering the Hyperion Union and begin planning out our destination to the facility containing the documents for that prototype. We also learn through exposition that the bandits aren't banditing super well and seem to have other goals in mind other than pillaging resources and women, which, given this universe, I'm not exactly sure why you'd even want to do that, because we literally have catgirls in future tech that'd probably give me a stroke if I had the chance to use it for even 3 seconds. I couldn't imagine anything else being more important in this point in the Arknights canon, but irregardless, we're told to use our admin powers first to summon in a giant factory unit we can build from, which in hindsight I'm shocked didn't just atomize us and the entire surrounding area, since this style of orbital drop is the kind of thing the USA uses in real life to blow up bunkers in the Middle East. They explain that as long as we have this area under our control, we can make infinite things. All we need is a handful of resources. So we begin the early game tutorial on the best part of this game, which is the satisfactory clone aspect. We'll get more into this later, as the basics here are very simple to understand, but it does get way more in depth than you'd think. Maybe not exactly the length Satisfactory does, but for a gacha game, it goes way harder than you'd ever expect. We're then tasked with linking it back to the main facility we came from so we can power it, since the AIC is not only capable of digistruction, but is also a limitless source of power. After a few more tutorials, we talk to Dr. Dre one more time, finally ready to set into our final goal of retrieving those prototype documents and parts, which apparently he began to work on illegally, so at least if he ever tries to get into politics, we have blackmail. We finally arrive at the facility, and as expected, it's been trashed by the cord-faced baddies. Our party isn't even sure why they'd be after parts of documents like this, given the fact that they otherwise seem like brutish morons who can't even read, let alone require schematics. Perhaps they needed the toilet paper and fancied themselves a new stereo. Progressing through this facility is filled with ADHD fuel that keeps me glued to my screen like a kid that didn't take their teacher's warning seriously enough in arts and crafts, but mercifully, some of it requires a power grid to be linked up, so I'm forced to not complete all of the exploration at once. After another 10 minutes of fluffing about, I walk on in and find some of those dastardly deviants standing around, committing the gravest of sins, loitering. Naturally, we can't let this go, and I show them the power of Endfield as justice and initiate summary execution upon these evildoers. Maybe that'll teach them a lesson for standing still anywhere near me. Deep in the heart of the facility, we find some survivors bickering over something, but we let them know that they're safe for now, and luckily for us, they managed to salvage what the bandits were looking for, which just so happens to be the parts in the documents. A lucky coincidence to be sure, which the game tries to play off as meaningful, but as of yet, I have no reason to believe that the main forces at play here have any reason to give us a free W. As for finishing up here with the survivors, we get ambushed by more championship snorkelers and have to find our way out. More mystery surrounding the sudden tactical cohesion and goals of the bandits, combined with the fact that they should have no way to know that this prototype exists, laying our heroes crew's mind. Given that we have no real leads as of now, we head on back to the AIC unit to regroup and figure out what it is we need to do next. And to deliver that guy's parts, I guess. You know, maybe. Hey everybody, thank you for watching part 1 of this ongoing series. I will be doing my best to keep up posting mostly the story and my progression with this game, and while the format I was planning to do initially has changed a little, largely it'll probably be similar to something like this, with more game sounds later, as later recordings don't have the same audio issue I experienced this time around. Arknights Endfield has been a breath of fresh air in the gacha/weeb scene, and honestly I've been enjoying my time with it. If you haven't already checked it out, I'd say give it a shot, if only to experience what the game has to offer as it stands now. Anyway, that's all for this episode. I just wanted to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.